Hit it harder than that, okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Jonesboro, the 5-time reigning club of the year. Yay. We're glad you're here. Got a great turnout. It's got to be about the program. He's back there going, no. Jill is going to introduce our distinguished judge.
We are so proud to have our Craighead County Judge, Marvin here. Of course, he's always with us, and we appreciate his wonderful support and participation in the Rotary Club, as well as what all he does for our community. Just a few things about him. He is a 5th-generation resident of Craighead County. I think that's important for people to know that his family has deep roots in Craighead County. And of course, he is maybe not so much the newly elected, because it's been a year now, but he was, or going on 2 years now, he was elected in January of 2019. But he is a 1988 graduate of Jonesboro High School, and then went on to graduate from the University of Arkansas with his bachelor's degree in civil engineering in 1992. He's a licensed professional engineer with the state of Arkansas. He's worked in the family-owned highway and bridge construction business for over 20 years, and there are countless other things that he has overseen and implemented and participated in through the years through his career. And so we appreciate hearing from him today about how COVID has affected our county and what they are doing to mitigate that, and some other things that he will share with us that he's involved in currently. Thank you, Judge Day. Thank you.
Thank you for that kind introduction. I didn't recognize who you're talking about most of the time, but I appreciate it anyway. Let's see here. Let me do a little housekeeping. Okay, scooter table, y'all can go ahead and go. Yeah, there we go. So I don't know why Gary asked me to do this topic, and I really don't know why he showed up. I mean, I try to be the most boring person that there is, and my wife tells me I do a good job of it. I do want to say thank you to one person. Jerry, stand up for us. This guy's a rock star. You don't know it. Get his autograph after. He works for the Corps of Engineers, and they've got great resources, and he's been a huge help for me as county judge. So thank you. I appreciate what you do. Yep. All right. So when Gary asked me to do this program, he'd heard a program I had done to Kiwanis a month or two ago, I guess. And I'll just kind of start out this way. It was just kind of a recap of 2020. And kind of how I went down that path was at the end of the year, right around Christmas, I got COVID. It was in the paper, slow news day. So the upside for me is I had 10 days sitting in a room by myself to reflect and think about things and kind of make plans and reflect on the year. And so when I got back to work, every Tuesday we have a staff meeting, and we go through what's going on the agenda. And for that first of the year staff meeting, I felt that it was appropriate for us to sit down and talk about 20, make plans for 21 of what we wanted to do, and those things are important to us. So we sat down at that meeting, and I say, looking back at 2020, if you think about it, if you would have told me that we're going to deal with a tornado, we're going to deal with a pandemic, I'm going to deal with the loss of my grandfather, I'm going to deal with somebody stealing $1.5 million of county money, and then I'm going to get COVID. I mean, and it's one of those things. If someone had come to me January 1, 2020, and laid out everything I did or was going to deal with last year, I'm not sure I would have stayed, just to be quite honest with you. And but just in looking back, I look back at what our staff, my team, what we did, and I was just so proud and just so thankful because, each of us individually and a lot of other partners that came in with us, we changed our job descriptions on the fly during that tornado to set up, food collection places and how to help people. And, a lot of our people weren't doing that. That was our HR director and my assistant, the things that they did and things of that, everything we've had to learn about how to manage through COVID, about cleanliness and masks and social distancing and educating people. And it just really made me so proud. And I think that for us, that made us a better team, that we recognize that we can grow and do things differently and don't have to be stuck in our same role, that we can adjust to better serve the community. So that was just an exciting time for me to think through those things. And then kind of looking at 2021, I may have to check my cheat sheet on that one. You won't be able to see, I'm gonna pull it up anyway. You won't be able to see this well, but if you happen to be in my office, behind my desk on a piece of paper is my goals of 2020. I tape it up to my back wall so I can say, every day, all right, what are we doing to accomplish these goals? And it's little things like timekeeping system. You think, well, why is that a big deal? Well, I can't tell you how many times I've heard feedback from people that says, well, those county employees, they don't work. They're at Shadrack's all the time now that we've got one next door to us or whatever. But I see differently. I mean, I see that we've got a good, hardworking staff, and how do we basically provide confidence to the people that we're working and we're doing the right things. So I kind of looked at what are our other departments already doing. So the road department, they've had a timekeeping system for years, and just an electronic one. The jail, all their employees, they've had a timekeeping system for years, and it's really just a few pockets in the county that don't. And so we thought, well, we need to all be on one system. Everybody's treated the same from an HR perspective. And so we're in the process of doing that. Well, you kind of learn that changing anything in government, or at least county government, is slow. It takes a while and takes a lot of buy-in, with all the other elected officials. But I'm proud we've got that ball rolling, and we're doing that. We should be up October 1st with that. The other big one was announced actually at Quorum Court last night. Our volunteer firefighters have had a marginal radio system for a long time. And it was kind of brought to my attention when I was campaigning, and it really hit home. So it was so I'd already gotten past the election. I was just visiting fire station. So it was December of 18. They just opened the bypass around Monette, Highway 18 where it goes around. A little bit rainy, kind of dark. And I was turning off to head into town, and I almost missed the turn. And I realized I am in the middle of Monette, or in the edge of Monette, and it is dark, and I would have been in that big old ditch. And I'm worried if that guy, so the first responders in all of our small towns around are the volunteer firefighters. That's who comes and gets you. And I'm thinking, and I'm not sure if they've got a radio that's going to pick up, whether, to help me or not. And it kind of drove home for me. I was like, wait a minute. We've done a great job in the city of Jonesboro with their communication systems. We've done it with our sheriff's office. But there's some people that need a little help. And so the fire chiefs and myself, they've been kind of looking at various options, different costs, and they finally settled in and joining the AWIN system, which is, it's a state-run program. If y'all don't know, it's Arkansas Wireless Information Network. And it's a very robust system. It works statewide. And so we have to buy in to get in there. But we were making that first step with the Quorum Court, using some of our CARES Act money, CARES Act money. There've been so many of them, I can't keep them all straight, to get them into that system. We're real proud of that. That was one of our big goals that we've had for the year. As Jill said in my intro, I'm a road guy. I like fixing roads. I like fixing it the first time and not going back every year and fixing the same pothole every year. So we've got a couple roads that we've done a geotechnical report, and We're going to try to get a bid package out on those to fix some roads the right way. Unfortunately, these are a paved road that wasn't done well, just being honest, and we're going to have to basically start over. And so we're working through that, and I'm kind of excited. I mean, doing something right the first time is kind of exciting. I don't like to spend money. That's my problem, but I'll get over that, and we'll figure that out. So, really, that was kind of our goals for the year. And then I guess our last that we're still working through is we've got a jail problem. We don't have the capacity. Last year in COVID really, really showed us how bad of a jail problem we had. Unfortunately, we're dealing with it again. We've got another outbreak going. And we've got to figure out a way. I'm hopeful that some of these ARP money or other programs, we can pay for that somehow or other. But those are kind of the big things in county government that we're really working on and trying to do trying to improve things on, make it better. So let's see here. What other? Oh, your title of your thing. I just looked. How has COVID impacted Craighead County? I'll leave with this. From some of our people, we've had some of our employees really have struggled through with COVID. For the most part, knock on wood, they've done very well. Financially, as crazy as this sounds, we had a great year last year. And I think it's a two-part thing of, we got $2 million of basically free money from the federal government through the CARES Act. When they first started this, if you remember back in March, early April, the sky was falling. Everybody said the world's coming to an end and, money's going to be gone. And so we really, countywide, I'm really proud of our elected officials. Everybody tightened their belt and we didn't spend as much money. I know in the road department, I just delayed a lot of capital purchases. I delayed a few road projects. I'm paying for that this year, unfortunately, because we had some roads fall under. But, we really had a good year and came out financially in better shape than we would have ever guessed. Especially now you're seeing sales tax numbers up. I think it was, what did we say last night? 30.7% for April or something like that. I can't get my head around that, but anyway. So it's been strong. Property tax has been strong. So that part the county has done really well on. So I guess I'm gonna do I don't have a whole lot else. I've came for the questions. We'll have some excitement in the questions. How about that?
Question.
Uh-oh.
Did it come in? Okay. There are a number of people who have a misconception about who reports to you in county government. When there were some HR issues in other parts of the county this past year, I heard several people comment, why doesn't he do something about that? And I know, that if you would explain to everybody, who reports to you or what your area of responsibility presently is.
Sure. Okay, so how do I want to describe? County government is really odd. I'll just say it that way, in my opinion. So I have no control at all over any of the other elected officials other than their budget. And their office space. So, for example, the sheriff, he is in charge of his own people. He hires and fires them. He has to follow the policies that have been established by the quorum court in those things. But, I have no control. Another perfect example was Candace Edwards, and, she terminated an employee and the quorum court through a grievance hearings reinstated them. I couldn't get involved in that process because I didn't have a say in it. So each elected official is totally independent. My job, if you look at kind of how the Constitution sets that up, my job is I manage all properties of the county. So all the roads, all the buildings, those sort of things. I'm chairman of the quorum court. So I prepare the agenda, I prepare a budget. I don't get to vote. And those are really my biggest things. I do have, it's kind of funny, you talk about judge. I do have a court. It's called county court. Typically, I'm seeing Property disputes, another one I see a lot, if there's been a vagrant that's passed away and no one claims their body, and I have to declare a vagrancy and the county pays for their cremation, that sort of thing. I rambled. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Thank y'all. Good to see everybody. Oh,
So I was excited, by the way, that because I just got my trout stamp, that you're going to stock Lake Bono with rainbow trout.
we are.
So
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has looking for employees now hiring.
Yep.
Have you seen that at the county level, and how is that impacting county government?
Sure. You know, for us, the biggest area that we're struggling is in jailers and law enforcement. You know, with all the protests and that happened last year, there's just unfortunately a little bit of a negative spin about law enforcement in general. And that's been a challenge for us. I don't know our exact number today, but earlier in the year we were down, gosh, I think Marty said 10 jailers, you know, so it was really difficult, but that's been the only one that's really been a challenge for us. We got another one.
So you mentioned that the county received money from the CARES Act and that you were looking into the radio program for the smaller communities. How else are you looking to spend that money in the CARES Act? And is it regulated just like how it was with like PPP loans?
Great question. So the CARES Act money was actually a reimbursement for, I gotta get this right, a reimbursement for affected areas due to the coronavirus. So they had several categories that you could get that money. The low hanging fruit for us was our jailers and our jail staff. They said, you know, that their jobs were significantly altered due to coronavirus, which they were. They were having to isolate people, wear masks, having inmates getting tested and all those sort of things. So we could apply for their salaries to be reimbursed. But once we get that money, it's ours to do with whatever we want. And so we got that $2 million. It's just been sitting in our account since, I don't know, October, I guess. So $500,000 of it, obviously, we're proposing to go to this AWIN. That's a little more closer to 400,000. With the remainder, we're looking at, we because of the tornado, we were able to get a hazard mitigation grant. At first, they said it was around $900,000. Now they're saying it's around $600,000, which is still a lot of money. And we're looking at doing a safe room or a safe room with some courtroom space in it. You know, I kind of go back to, you know, what's our main mission of county government, and that's all laid out in Arkansas Law 1414-802, and it's, and the things you've got to do is, you know, have a court system, you got to manage, you know, property records, you have to have a jail, those sort of things. And so, you know, if you look back, you know, a few years ago, we got actually 2 additional circuit judges added to our area, but we really don't have the courtroom space to manage them. So we're going to try to leverage some of the money that we're getting, whether it's CARES Act or a mitigation grant, and try to provide some extra courtroom space to accommodate that. So, and then like I say, I'm looking at jail for some of the other money.
Is there a time frame that money, the CARES Act, has to be spent?
So the question was, I remember, thank you, Sam. So the question was, is there a time frame that the CARES Act money has to be spent? And the answer is no. It is ours to do with whatever we want, when we want. Now, the ARP money, which is the one that came out this year, which, you know, Craighead County has already received 10.7 million, and we'll get another 10.7 million next year. That money has to be, let's see here. We have to have clearly defined the project by the end of 2024, and we have to have spent all the money, I think, by the end of 2026. So that one is really that ARP money is really interesting. It's and this is what we saw with the CARES Act money, to be honest with you. It started out with a very narrow scope of you can only spend money on X, Y, Z. Then politics gets involved, and then it's X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and so that's what's going on with the ARP money right now. The things that are low hanging fruit for that are direct coronavirus expenses. For whatever reason, they want water and sewer infrastructure. Coronavirus money to spend on water and sewer, broadband, heating and air systems in buildings, in public buildings. So I can replace all our heat and air units and get it where it's more friendly for viruses, adding the ion exchangers and fresh air systems and those sort of things. But we're waiting. So the comment period ended Friday. We're told by sometime late August, we'll have the final rule of what we can spend that money on. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious, just because I'm not familiar, but at the jail, the inmates that have coronavirus, do they have to be segregated or how does that process?
Sure. I'm not sure the microphone picked up on the question, but the question was, in managing a jail, what do you do with patients with or inmates with coronavirus? So, it's basically yes. So what we have to do that's different than what we would normally do, we create the jail has different pods. We have to take a pod, and then every inmate that, let's say, comes in that day, they go into that pod and they're quarantined in that pod, and some are tested, some are not, but basically they're quarantined until their 14-day period is up. So the incident that was in the paper I mentioned just a little bit ago, we had some inmates come in and they were positive, and so you've just got to quarantine them until it goes through that process, and then you can move them into other pods as what's appropriate for whatever their issue is. And so that's kind of how you have to, and so it gets, so when it gets really difficult is, you got to keep your misdemeanors away from your felony prisoners, obviously men and women separate, kids separate. That's a lot of pods, and we're just not set up for that, just to be very honest with you. Something else about our jail, so we've had a lot of architects come in and talk to us about our jail, and one of our biggest issues, and you just wouldn't think, our jail's 31 years old, and you would think a jail is a jail is a jail, but it's really interesting, the architecture of what they're doing today compared to 30 years ago. We're using about 4 times the amount of labor with the architecture we have on our current jail than what if we built a brand new one. That they're able to manage that population with so much fewer people through technology and sight distances and things of that nature. So that's kind of a footnote on that. Does that get you? Okay.
Hey, Marvin, is there an increase in the budget and an increased awareness for cybersecurity for our county?
Great question. So the question was, is there an increased budget or concern about cybersecurity? Absolutely. We, not to necessarily put a plug in, but it is a local business, I'll put a plug in. So when I got there, our IT department was kind of they didn't have a whole lot of outside help. And so they kind of said, well, we're our own experts and that sort of thing. Well, with my experience with City Water and Light and seeing some of those guys, sometimes you need somebody from the outside looking in, auditing you. And so in kind of managing that staff, we reduced the staff of our IT department, and we added in, we advertised it and all this kind of good stuff, but we added in a company called Calmer Solutions. And that basically, they're kind of our extra set of eyes when we have overflow on tickets. I forgot my computer, they can log on and help people. But the other thing that's great about them is they're very proficient in cybersecurity. And so with all this stuff you're seeing about ransomware and data mining, we've done some fairly significant changes in the last 12 months. to protect ourselves, whether upgrading firewalls, a little extra redundancy in our data storage, so that you might get to one server, but you're not going to get to the other two, things like that. So yes, we do. It's something we worry about, and I have other people helping us worry about, which makes me feel a little better too. So.
I'm going to ask a question that needs to be deleted from the tape, I'm sure.
Oh, boy. We're going to get to the good ones now. All right.
Do we have any hopes, does the county have any hopes of finding more of the cash that Cade put somewhere and recovering?
You know, Nancy, I would love to be able to say we're going to dig up that pot out in his backyard with all that money in it. You know, the bottom line is I don't think it's there. We went through, and I say I had an accountant and myself, and we went through all the bank records trying to reconcile what was going on. And I'll be shocked, but it just looked like he had a heck of a good time for about 2 years, and it just finally caught up to him. There was a lot going on with that Twisted Foods account. You know, it's, you know, they're making the case that they lost money, but from what I see, it looked like Cade probably took $1 million or so in 2019, you know, where he was paying himself and doing things of that nature. But then he took the county money and put it all back, is really the largest piece of that that went in there. And so that was, you know, that was really covering food and salaries for employees and those sort of things. So do I think we're going to get it all back? No. I mean, we'll probably get, you know, I'm speculating here, $200,000-300,000 out of the bankruptcy case would be my guess. We're first in line behind the banks, and the banks have all been satisfied. So now it's just letting them get all that settled. We've got an insurance policy through the state that'll pay us $300,000. The state wants us to say that it's the policy specifically says you get $300,000 per occurrence. The case I'm going to make is we had 14 different occurrences. The case they're going to make is you had one occurrence. So we'll see how that one ends up. But I'm going to try to make us whole in that way. And then, of course, we have a judgment against him. So any future earnings we'll get back, maybe. So that part I will make my comment that part is very disheartening. Having watched the legal process unfold and what's going on there, that is, I've been very disappointed. Not in anybody. It's just, you know, white collar crime. They don't do what you think they do. You know, we're working with both our state and federal prosecutors trying to find get the county whole, or the people of the county whole, and, you know, the most jail time we can for him. And you just don't get much for white collar crime. So
I just want to know what you want your legacy to be. Do you think you've already gotten there, or is there something left that you want to really make happen before you leave office?
That's a good question, Jill. You know, I guess on the personal note, I'm gonna get choked up thinking about my kids. My personal note is that I care about my community and I've done my part. Whatever that is, it is. On a professional side, you know, I look back at what was going on at the county and some of those things. I want my legacy on that side to be that I've done everything I can do to make Craighead County the most efficiently run county in the state, period. Whether it's getting the jail where it needs to be, getting our court system where it needs to be, getting our employees where they're paid, fairly and treated properly and good benefits. I mean, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit on inefficiencies that we already have worked through and have done well, but there's things that we haven't gotten done yet. Health insurance is one of them. We're working on that right now. And so I just, probably on the business side, I'd like to be able to say we've accomplished that, and we're as good as anybody. Well, I will end by thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve you as your judge. Anything I can do to help you, please call.
Thank you, Marvin. It's very informative and very interesting. Appreciate you joining us today.